do you know, like, David? Do you know the main obstacle? What prevents us from getting 100% into the cloud? Like, my expectation is there, but what is the reality?
Right. I would almost define the thing that you're talking about here, locality, because there are gamers out there who have shelves, which may or may not appear in the short that you're viewing right now, that have cartridges or discs or any number of things that span the wall and span decades of all different types of experiences, right? Up to a certain era, after which it kind of becomes increasingly digital all the way down, right? You'll see kids with Switch cases and they have cartridges in them, but that's purely a practicality. They could store the stuff on the disc on the Switch, and that doesn't really matter to them, right? Similarly, I think about Steam. I install a given game from Steam on my computer, and it's there and it's good. But I like that Steam will let me keep a copy of it wherever so that I can install it on any machine that I might have. And I think about this in contrast to console, where there are a few titles that I purchased on PS3 that I can no longer play because there is not sufficient emulation. I don't have a ROM copy, and I had to throw away my PS3 because I think I booted up Final Fantasy X on my new big screen TV, and it was so blurry it gave me a headache when I tried to do it. So I was like, well, this thing has to go, and I'd forgotten about DuckTales Remastered, by the way, was the title in question that that I am looking to play again somehow. But from a user perspective, they want to be able to play whenever and wherever. But there is also an aspect of keeping things like in your hand that is also a difficult thing to get away from when you're talking about what's local versus what's not.
But if we get back to the main reason, the main obstacle that prevents us from doing that, because there are a number of times that allow me to using my phone to connect to a cloud and start playing, just as I can connect using my phone to start watching Netflix or any other show or doing my job without installing anything locally on my handheld or phone or my desktop or my MacBook. What is the main obstacle? Is it the infrastructure on the backend infrastructure, or it's still the connection speed, the bandwidth, or the connection speed on different part of the world? Because Pablo, I remember like you were the Google Stadia user. You used that and you live on an island, and it worked.
Yes, but it's okay. Only to go to one point. It's an island, but it's an island with internet. So sorry, because I am not living in the mainland. So the idea is really, and I was a happy user. I'm a happy user because there were few games, nothing, only 2 or 3 games. And even I'm happy because I think that Google didn't understand the subscription way. And because they were selling to you games for 100 euros, 80 euros, the 2 or 3 that they had in the catalog, few games. No, it wasn't 2 or 3. It was maybe 20, 30, but I think that they can rent it. So you already pay a subscription. And what you can do is you can play for these games in my $20 subscription or 30, and you can play maybe 2-3 hours to this game per week or something like that. And in case that you want to play more, you can pay more. But really, the way to play, it was very good. It was surprisingly good, because the speed that you were able to get, and of course that you low the quality of the game. It's not like you're playing at home with a PlayStation 4, but I am not this kind of freaky person who needs to have all the little frames, and everything should be perfect. For me, it was not correct. It was perfect to play online, because these shooting games, man, when you're shooting and you with the sound and you're playing here in the laptop, and I have to keep, and sometimes I cannot play in front of them because maybe it's an aggressive game, and I can go with my laptop to another place. I cannot tell to them, don't go inside the living room because I'm playing it. but you can go with your laptop and you can go to another place. And I love this idea. For me, it was the game changer. But okay, not so surprisingly, because most of the tools that Google create disappear in 2 years. But this one disappeared too. And sorry to say that, but it was sad. But it was something like, okay, I knew this is going to happen. And for Google, is because they had millions. They said, okay, I will pay you back as soon as all the money that you pay. They paid me back the last month or 2 months subscription, and that's all. End of the business. And it's sad because it was something that if you are doing in this quality, but the only thing is that you have more and more games, maybe there is some technical issues that I wanted to know today. But if you do in this super cool way, I don't know why you need to close this tool, because it was super good and working.
Right. So I'll comment on the two sides of this in the ways that I can comment on. Mm-hmm. So the first side of when we talk about cloud gaming and why don't we put the whole console in the cloud, so to speak, there is the technical side of this piece. And I'll go ahead and bring in an extra competitor that no one asked for, which is VR. But there are similar challenges to VR, which is to say, what is an actual pleasant experience that people will be able to get behind and go through in a way that they will sit down and play for a number of hours. Mm-hmm. Very simply, it's a question of latency, it's a question of horsepower and where they're going, and it's a question of location. So the way you have, and I think Stadia actually was amazing at this, from a tech test perspective, it worked. I tested it in hotels as I was traveling all across America. I had limited worldwide experience, but I'm told that it did pretty well in a whole bunch of places. Google has a lot of servers in a lot of places. It was very straightforward to set up and do from that regard. I think you have to, I don't remember what the specific numbers were that you have to hit, but it's a tight window that you have to get some degree of feedback in there before people start to feel that it's sluggish. So there's the input side of the equation, and there's also the graphics side of the equation, because you have to have something on the cloud side that is creating the image well enough and streaming it well enough. This is why Stadia went with Vulkan, in order to get it to whatever the end device is in a way that makes sense and can be done in a performant fashion. So there are a lot of technical challenges that you have to overcome from that regard. And I haven't used GeForce Now, but if you look at their status page, this is why they have a bajillion different DCs listed, because you have to get close to basic data centers. Yes. So you have to get really close to all the metros that you want to serve. And the further and further out, you're going to run into speed of light problems where you can't get an input back and forth within a frame. And as a result, that just starts to get very sluggish for most people. And I think it's slightly more forgiving than a frame, but it's not more forgiving than 2 or 3 in terms of what people can generally tolerate. Then there's the other side of this equation, which is the marketing piece. One of the things that gamers will probably want to have if we ever transition to this type of experience is something that I think GeForce Now is doing really well, which is tying in a lot of different stores so that your whole library is available to you on demand. As you mentioned, Pablo, this was something that was a real sore spot for Stadia, because even though the tech was there and it worked, there weren't a lot of titles that people were clamoring to play a whole bunch of different, at every single moment. And then there's the other half of the marketing equation, which is that most of the people currently who are interested in AAA gaming, which is to say prestige titles that take a lot of money to develop and have multiple years of development time and release cycles, they already have a console, or they are willing to put down for a console in order to have it there and have it always running. Mm-hmm. So the market for who doesn't have a console that wants a AAA experience that is open to some degree of library limitations was a market that was too small to sustain Stadia.